insisted that it wasn't his fault. He never used those words. Well, you can put a spin to it.
I said it wasn't me. That's what the president. It isn't me.
No, he alluded to the fact that yes, we've made some progress, but for the COVID. So are you going to say COVID has not eroded our gains as a people? COVID has not disrupted the global supply chain. For that matter, it has brought suffering. Then you went on to talk about the fact that there's a whole chair in the V8.
Is there not?
That's too pedestrian, please.
Okay. Kofi, so I like the fact that you guys come and read from scripts, because I see you have highlighted something you are reading from.
No, that's the budget.
Well,
that's the budget.
So let me tell you. So this
budget on my phone that I've highlighted.
Let's not belabor this point. What I do on Johnny's Bite, if you like, we can sell airtime to you so that you can also have NPP's Bite. No, it's true.
But I have the responsibility to defend my government.
The Daily Graphic has an editorial. Do you go and write an op-ed for them? The Daily Graphic has an editorial.
If I have an opportunity, I'll write.
So go and write for them.
Okay, I will. But anytime I feel like there's a misleading information, there's a need for me to correct. For example,
let me put on record. I said this morning that in 1969, J.C. Williams said the people are suffering. In 2022, the people are still suffering. Identifying the problem is one. You know it as a researcher. Solving the problem is the other one. What is your scorecard? Apart from admitting in the budget that you have identified the problem, how are you solving it? That's the question I'm asking.
For example, let me tell you how
I'm not misleading people. No, I'm not giving you a blank check.
Graduate unemployment. When people were forming associations of graduate employees, we came and introduced NAPCO. That does not mean it has been perfect, but we provided a solution to it.
You want to talk about NAPCO?
Okay.
You want to talk about NAPCO?
No, I'm saying that we provided a solution. When our mothers and our fathers, including my mother and my father, at some point were unable to pay my school fees, and it took the benevolence of my relative to take care of me through secondary school. But today, is that the case? Every child can go to secondary school without money becoming an issue. So, yes, this is a human institution. The president, and you admitted it today, he can't do it all. But clearly, he has done something. And I think that you also need to recognize the job of the president and what he has done thus far.
Okay. Are you done? Yeah, have you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you admit that I admit that the president can't do it all, but you have a problem when I'm pointing out his faults.
No,
you see,
I'm also
double standards. Double standards.
Johnny.
Anyway, let me not open it for conversation, Crab. Because I know when you come in, we'll drift from what we're going to discuss.
I just want to wish Mr. Kingsley Kwame Iwadako a happy birthday.
From our boss.
Just as Malik Basintali and another, Comrade Eric Elikem Ditologo.
Oh, okay.
I just want to wish them a happy birthday. Guardians are watching us.
I hear you.
And I think that I've taken more solace in what you said, that people are defending the indefensible. And that is enough.
Okay, now today is the 4th of January. The benchmark values, as you do know, Guta is asking that the presidency, or if you like, the government suspends the introduction or the cancellation of the what do you call it, the benchmark values. Of course, it will have a ripple effect of hardships, which the president himself has admitted to, not specifically related to that. But I want you to take a look at Vice President Dr. Bawumia talking about revenue from the ports and all of that. But while we get ready for that, I'll quickly read for you the statement from Guta that's talking about this, the government should hold on. Maybe you can put that up on the screen. It says the Ghana Union of Traders Guta press statement, government should hold on with the implementation of the reversal of the benchmark value policy. The Ghana Union of Traders Association is calling on the government to hold on with the implementation of the reversal of the benchmark value policy based on the following. One, that the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic are still prevalent and even in the fourth wave, which is worsening the situation. Two, the world commodity prices are still high and going up, with freight charges being extremely high. Three, that the conditions that resulted to the introduction of the benchmark The prices of essential commodities such as food, pharmaceuticals, and others will be extremely unbearable for the consuming public, which will also affect turnover and volume of trade in the country. Therefore, collapse businesses. 5, that in the fight against the pandemic, prices of food items, pharmaceutical products, etc., need to be affordable to the consuming public. 6, that local manufacturers cannot meet demand of most of the listed items. Therefore, we are not self-sufficient as a country to surcharge the consuming public. 7, the lack of competitiveness on our local industries is based on the factors rather than the benchmark value policy of which the industries are also beneficiaries. 8, that the exchange rate is also going up at this time. 9, that the competitiveness of the Ghanaian trader, which within the sub-regional bloc cross-border trade, should also be considered as very necessary and important. 10, that the government, through the economic management team, has promised to engage stakeholders on the issue before any decision is taken, but have not met yet. 11, that in the press conference of the Honorable Finance Minister, he acknowledged the fact that the reversal of the benchmark value would have an adverse effect on importers, and the government would find a mitigating factor to cushion the effect, but this has not yet been done. In view of all the aforesaid, it is our hope that the belief of that government will listen to our plea and hold on with the policy for proper stakeholder engagement to take place. Signed by Dr. Joseph Obeng, his president of GUTA. So this is what GUTA is saying. I know that the Manufacturers Association also supports the what do you call the cancellation of the benchmark value. But take a listen to Vice President Bawumia speaking about how much we made for the port and what volumes and all of that. Take a listen to it.
These decisions with the objective of increasing trade facilitation and efficiency and revenue. Port revenue depends on volume. Port revenue depends on volume. So if you don't have the trade facilitation, you will not have the volume. And if you don't have the volume, you will not have the revenue. And this is that is what the thinking that is informing these decisions. So we are looking at increasing revenue. But to do so, we cannot be uncompetitive between Ghana and our next door neighbors. That is just shooting ourselves in the foot. So, to reduce the incidence of smuggling and enhance revenue, the benchmark delivery values of imports will be reduced by 50%. This, however, for vehicles, the reduction will be 30%. This is because vehicles already attract an amount of depreciation, which if you factor it in, it will take you closer to the 50%.
That's Vice President Dr. Bawumia Kofi. So he gave prerequisites why the benchmark value cuts were made. Mm-hmm. What has changed?
Well, it's a policy decision, and policies do change. Policies are introduced to tailor a specific need. Mm. At the time you introduced, of course, he enumerated the reasons for the introduction of the benchmark value. Mm-hmm. For the purpose of your viewers, benchmark values basically means that, for example, if you decide to buy awake mineral water from, say, US, and you tell them you bought it for $2, there's a world market price, okay, that is acceptable by, I think, customs organization like that. So they will take that value, the world price, and then they will reduce it by 50% for certain goods. And then for vehicles, it was 30%. That's what they did for them. So that was since 2019. And the intent was what the Vice President enumerated. Mm-hmm. However, in consultation with Association of Ghana Industries and other stakeholders, there is the realization, and in fact, I will give you some few facts, that if you want to create more jobs, if you want to make sure we improve and make sure the local industries also improve, there is a need for them to have a fair ground for them to compete. It will not be fair if, for example, goods that are produced locally in Ghana enjoys little from the government more than that of a good that is coming from abroad. So if Awake is producing water and somebody is importing water, the person is enjoying 50% tax rebate. And for them, they looked at it and they realized, no. If you look at the one district, one factory, and you look at the 43 items that have been taken off.
The first one is sugar.
Yes.
Let's focus on sugar.
Let me finish with the point.
Because you're going there, so let's focus on sugar.
Because if you don't let me land.
You say look at the item, so I was going to sugar.
Why are you choosing sugar for me?
It is the first item.
It's not the first item I have here. It's poultry.
Okay.
And the second item is rice. Then sugar is third.
Okay.
Then pasta, spaghetti, noodles, macaroni.
Okay.
Palm oil, crude. But if you want to talk about sugar,
is this what was released?
Yes, by Ghana Revenue Authority.
So, for example, sugar. Now we are cutting the benchmark value on sugar, which means that sugar will be more expensive. What is the local answer?
Johnny, there are 43 items here.
Right.
I understand why you choose sugar. Because relatively, we don't have a manufacturing, not that I know of.
Right.
But if we intend to do so, there's a need for us to create an incentive for even if investors would have to come, or even local investors have to come. So if you don't create that incentive for people, to say, okay, if I come in and I intend to produce locally, I won't have that unfair competitiveness in the market. Okay, that is one. So when you look at, for example, government policies like planting, rearing for food and export, where we have cushioned and supported the poultry industry, there is the need for us to take that tax away so that at the end of the day, we will consume locally. And if we do consume locally, it will help fix our foreign exchange regime. It will help create more jobs. It will help ensure that our local businesses also grow. So basically, if you look at all of these things, we have a corresponding 1D, 1F that can be able to produce locally to support or augment, of course, what will be coming from outside.
Let's go back to the sugar argument. So your argument is that you are taking it off to encourage FDIs. Right?
There are a lot of factors that
you have just given that. I want to interrogate that a bit. Now, this morning, a lot of people will be depending on sugar, afternoon, evening. It's a regular thing. You go to the schools, dining hall, everywhere. You don't have a manufacturing plant for sugar. People depend heavily on it. You have taken the benchmark value on it. And you say you want to use that to bait people to come and invest. Is it the smartest thing to do? Couldn't you have done it concurrently, for example?
The question that has been raised by others who are interested in this benchmark value, one is that when we introduced the benchmark value, did it have a direct impact on the prices of those products?
Tell me, what did you find before you come?
For me, the rate, for example, if you introduce 50%, tax reduction, maybe the rate at which it would have increased might reduce because there was an introduction. So for me, those who make the argument, especially the AGI people, who make the argument that, at the end of the day, we did not even see a significant change when the benchmark value was introduced, I kind of disagree from that.
Has the government done any scientific analysis to say, look, it was selling at this much, we gave you 50% benchmark values over this period?
I'm sure the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning will have those research and those figures. As I sit here, I won't lie to you that I have it. But I'm very sure with my small economic background, those research will be done. Again, I'm saying that this government has done so well, especially when you look at the 1D, 1F, and especially those factories that we supported. Not all were started from a ground. There were some that were already in existence, but they were struggling, so government supported. When you look at ceramics, fruit juice, for example, if you look at other fruit juice that are imported, I don't want to mention their name. Now we have locally manufactured fruit juice. Anytime I go to the restaurant, I prefer the ginger and the pineapple fruit juice, the locally made one, the natural one. So for me, it's a way of making sure we support the local industry. It's a way of making sure we create more jobs. At the end of the day, we introduce it for 2 years. We have 2 or 3 more years as a government. Let's see how it pans out. And at the end of the day,
is asking you to pull the brakes and come to the table for more negotiations, because then what you're going to do is that you're going to make their lives difficult. The ripple effect will be that their businesses may shut down. hardships will come because the price will be passed, the excess will be passed on to the consumers. And if they shut down, people will lose their jobs and add on to the already huge numbers of unemployed people.
They have
What do you say?
They have a point. And the truth of the matter is that every policy would have a negative effect or a positive effect. Either way you look at it. Okay? And by the end of the day, you are looking at the net effect. And this government doesn't shy away from consultation. It doesn't shy away where it's wrong. We admit where we are wrong. And when we have to pull the brakes, we do pull the brakes. So I'm very sure that consultation will still be ongoing. And if there are things that need to be changed, of course, even AGI has also recommended that government might look at where the raw materials are not even cannot be found in Ghana. They should give concession for these raw materials. So consultations are ongoing, but the bottom line is that government intends to remove. Of course, it takes effect today. So government has removed the benchmark values. Let's look at how it pans out. For example, we introduced the luxury tax. We've taken it out.
After you made money.
Oh, come on. We made money for the country. We didn't make money for ourselves. We made money to asphalt over 6,000 kilometers of road. We made money to construct about 5 interchanges in this country. We made money to ensure that when COVID hit us, we're able to ensure that 50% electricity were reduced for consumers.
Money for all those things you're talking about.
No, Johnny.
There's record to show.
We cannot continue. Of course. So are you saying that we should not borrow money?
So don't say that we got all
but
the money.
that money comes to support what we borrow.
So you could have said that.
No, why should? So now you want to speak for me? So the bottom line is this.
Now you feel how it feels when you come dictating how I should do my job.
Oh no, but I'm not aggressive. I'm accepting.
Go ahead, you are my brother.
Oh, of course, you always be my brother. So the bottom line is that at the end of the day, for me, if I sit down and analyze it with my basic economics, I think we should give this government an opportunity and see how it will be able to grow our local industry. That's where my interest is.
I want to go back to, quickly, that's my final question, I go to LFM. I want to go back to there was a chart that heralded the one district, one factory. You did a Ghana map, and then you did arrows out of it, and then you showed us every single district in this country and the raw materials that are present. Now, I don't know what the policy duration is for 1D, 1F, and whether you are forced to do an audit of so far, how far, beyond telling us that we have X number of factories running, we have X number of factories being constructed, we have supported X number of factories, and all of that. Has the government sat down to do that audit?
With that chart?
Relating to the cancellation of this benchmark values and how much progress you have made, which is why you think it is necessary at this point.
Of course, I don't know. You don't have time. I would have taken each item that had been removed, and I will correspond it to 1D, 1F that has sprung up. Okay. Yes, we had a chart, and the intention of government, if you read our 2016 manifesto, our aim was to establish factories in collaboration with the private sector in each of the districts. So the policy was that, okay, let's identify an area where a specific raw materials, a factory can be established over there. So that is ongoing. For you to have an investor, for you to vet that investor and go through all that process, it takes a while. But as we speak now, we have over almost 170 that are operational. And that's commendable, because at the end of the day, they look at if previous governments have done so, how many factories we would have had as at now, moving forward. So clearly, I think that when you look at the commodities that have been taken and you look at the factory that have been established as at now, I think they are encouraging. My hope and belief is that indeed this policy or this benchmark value that has been taken in an attempt to ensure that we grow our local industry will really, really be fruitful. And when it does, we will really see the job creation we are all earning for.
Elika, can the local demand pressure that may come if people decide that let's do made in Ghana, benchmark values have been taken off, prices are high, but if we buy locally, it will be cheaper. Can our local industry stomach this pressure?
Thank you, Johnny. I think we are having too many square pegs in round holes.
Why do you say that?
under the present dispensation, and it is very worrying. And I speak of these things as youth who is very worried because I see a very bleak future, even in the next 3 years. And if I would listen to my brother, even make such submissions relative to the benchmark values, then I admit that government itself is lost. Like you put it to him, Dr. Baumia, in making those submissions, gave us the reasons which actually called for the benchmark values. Has those things, any of those things changed? And what makes you think that in a bid to want to boost local production or localization or domestication means that the removal of these benchmark values is a panacea for that? Like you rightly said, are our local industries even capable of meeting that high demand? Should there be common matches that requires phosphorus, which we can actually do here in Ghana? They were telling us that there were opportunities in adversity at the time of the break of COVID-19. What are the opportunities that have actually flourished out of that, apart from the corruption that continually remains established under the present dispensation? And so when we talk about these things that are of national interest, and it looks as though it is just commentary, that these are matters of policy and it can change at any time. Policies can change at any time, but it ought to be changed when it's reviewed and has actually probably been seen to exhaust its usefulness.
Maybe the ministry has done that.
But you and I are Ghanaians as well too, and we can see for ourselves the untold hardships that has been visited on us. We were told in what my brother read that the president admitted that we are suffering and all that. The president knows in his mind we are suffering, but the same president is living luxurious lives, traveling and renting presidential jets at the cost of the taxpayer.
Well, he said the president admits that we are suffering, but he didn't say it wasn't his fault.
Yeah, but
even though it's been published.
Admission of the fact that we are in the woods. Admission of the fact that we are in the woods alone should tell every reasonable person that there's need for you to cut down. Because you cannot say that, for instance, you want to cut down on the legislature's budget or the other ones, whilst yours remain on the increase. It makes no logic even to the KG people. So for how long shall we continue living in this animal kingdom where somebody just comes and thinks that we are low-brainers and throw words at us? Ghanaians are watching us, and for God's sake, let's take them serious.
So let's look at the flip. The government says we want to encourage local production.
Yes.
And to make sure that we are self-sustainable.
Yes.
That's a good thing, isn't it?
That's a very good thing. With some of these things that we are talking about, are they telling us that in the next 6 months or so, we need to have sugar production that will rise to the level that will meet our demands from the local industry? With some of these things, how long will it take the local industry to actually equip itself to be capable of deploying that to the Ghanaian citizenry? Is it untold hardship they want to increase on us? Is that not what it is? So the fact that you want to boost the local economy does not necessarily mean that you want, look, government is broke and they want to find ways to raise revenue.
How do you know that?
We are aware. Are we not aware of the e-levy that is being imposed on us harshly, but for the vigilance of the minority? Now, as we speak, a roads minister recklessly decided to abandon a portion of budget allocation for the last year. For November and December, he called for the cessation of collection of road tolls. How much have we lost from that time till December? Mute. And so when I say we have square pegs in round holes, it again makes me admit to one of your submissions that, look, we have old folks who are supposed to be guiding the young do the work. But President Nana has chosen these ones to be the ones trotting with him.
They are bringing Johnny's by here like a mayor.
And in as much as they are moving at a slow pace, they believe that they are running. They believe that they are running. And it is very worrying, Johnny. It is very worrying. The fact remains that, look, now as we speak, the price of sugar is expected to go up by probably 50%.
Right.
Those who are going to be clearing cars at the port are going to be paying 30% more for that. How does that solve the situation? And then my brother was saying that they took monies to build, they took that to build roads or do interchanges and all that. When we are all aware that you have been one of the greatest beneficiaries of COVID-19. It has resulted in you taking monies from here and there, not accounting for that. So where exactly have we gone wrong as Ghanaians? That when we even demand accountability, we are told that we are not in the right place. We have no right to do so.
Government needs to be commended because, for example, within the poultry industry, they have supported them, and so it's now time
Johnny,
to cut
if
the benchmark
it
value.
was just about such mediocre approach to governance, then I think President John Dramani Mahama would have to be canonized from today onwards.
What is his scorecard? What is his scorecard compared to what?
You recall even when he had to give was the support to the pharmaceutical industry and all that. He didn't have to blow the trumpet over those things. That is because these are the very basic rudiments of governance. It is the reason why you even have a vice president on national TV saying that Saudi Arabia over toilet and yes, sir. That is how mediocre governance has become under this regime.
It's factual.
It is factual. But you see, when you have a vice president reduce himself to this mediocre approach to governance, it means that policy is suffering. That is the reason why today they will tell you this, and the next moment they change it. And they are proud now to say that they have even taken away vehicle luxury tax. It is because it was ill thought through. That was the same way.
He said we have benefited from it to construct roads.
That was the same way John Dramani Mahama told them in Takwa, I recall, that in the implementation of the free SHS, there was a need for wider consultation. They went all gun blazing at him. What has happened to that so far? So when we talk, he said he was going to cancel that, they said he was going to review free SHS. They said he was going to cancel it. When luxury vehicle tax was being opposed, what did they not say about that? Today they are hitting their chest that they scrapped it because they are listening.
But at some point, Elikem, something must give if we want to grow and develop as a people. Something must give. There's always that turning points that may not be too pleasant for everybody else, but something must give.
But you know the situation we find ourselves in?
No.
We are in a vehicle and the driver has taken a left turn instead of the right. And he's still on that left turn, believing and convincing the passengers that there will be a corner somewhere that will link to the right turn. And there's no such. We are heading into an abyss if we are already not in there. Let us ask ourselves, with public debt that has risen to over close to 400 billion, what is there to show for it? This was the same Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo who chastised and criticized the NDC and John Dramani Mahama for not doing anything, who chastised John Evans Mills of being Mr. Do-Little. What is he doing now? And that is why it is not surprising that 5 to 6 years in power, they are still talking about John Dramani Mahama. A regime that has even finished its first term and in its second term is still blaming and talking about John Dramani Mahama. Look, let me be frank with you. A lot of things have broken down. Law and order, security. Let me even put this on record. The flight sergeant Nicholas Osu-Frimpong, who was arrested, I want to commend the Ghana Police Service for doing so and the military. I pray fervently that this unscrupulous behavior by such irresponsible gentlemen who have found themselves in our military. These are things we have talked about how compromised even our state institutions have become.
He's only one.
He's one. He's one. If you want me to cite more, I can cite more. Yes.
Let's not digress.
So there's a broken down system that needs to be fixed. When they fixed the country, people were even talking about fix the country. There were people who were chastising them. Oh, we are fixing the country. Fixing. What exactly are you fixing us about? We are not saying that we are not commending government for doing anything. Even if you have not done anything, you have taken a step. So you will still be commended anyways. But because of the competence you preached, compared to what we are seeing today, you can interview even your cameramen here, your people in this station. You will get more than 80% of them telling you that their living standards have worsened. And that is just truth. It doesn't need a soothsayer. You don't need to be a Jewish prophet or related to one in order to know the fact that President Nana Addo's regime has brought untold hardship onto us.
I hear you. Could you stepping for me?
Please.
He says you should come again.
You see, these salad of words calling the future is bleak. Why the future wouldn't be bleak when you speak the way you are speaking? The young people want to listen to hope. What alternative would you bring on the table to elevate them from their struggles?
Who eats hope?
Should I give you that?
Hold on. Who eats hope?
The young people out there are watching and listening to what you can do so that their lives can be better.
To motivation.
Not this lamentation, chronicle of lamentation without solution. Listen, see, when I was having a discussion with you, I never mentioned the NDC, did I? I never mentioned John Dramani Mahama. But the moment you started saying we're using phrases like one pegs in square holes, wait a minute. Who is talking? An NDC speaking this way about this government? when the Institute of Statistical and Economic Research Department, made a report that because of Dumso, every single day Ghanaian businesses were losing $2 million US. Blue skies.
And how much are we losing?
Hold on, when you spoke, I kept quiet.
Allow him, please.
Blue skies lost 1,000 workers out of 3,000 workers because of Dumso. What did you do for workers? What did you do for traders? You didn't do anything. But when we came, we did something for them, at least for 2 years. We introduced the benchmark values. Yes, I can take that from you. But from you, and they're using words like mediocrity, you talk about accounting to the people. You see, when they talk about accounting to the people, you spend the money, you don't know what you use the money for. I'm sorry. Just like the former leader of your party and the former president, John Dramani, said, I wish him, I extend my condolences.
Deepest condolences, yeah, he lost his brother.
He said, when we ask what you use the money for, he said, go and read the budget. And he's right. Read the appendices of the budget. Don't just read the budget and the words. Go to the appendices. Every person is accounted for.
Okay.
Now, so for me,
that is $7 billion.
Hold on. You're asking about accountability.
So,
about accountability. I'm telling you where the accountability is.
The
read the appendices.
Deficit on the
read the appendices.
I can be fair to him. Kofi, I'm happy you mentioned Issa. So Issa spoke about Dumso. Maybe they listened, maybe they didn't listen. We all saw what the repercussions were. Issa is now advising and sounded the alarm about the E-levy, calling it regressive. Would the government listen to Issa, for example, and back down?
You see, I say this humbly. I came back a couple of days ago, less than a week ago, and I've been following the discussion. I've been, playing it back in my mind. And the impression is created as though when this government makes a step or intends to introduce a policy, and Ghanaians decide that we don't want it, they force it down their throats. That's not the style of this government. There have been many instances where we've intended to introduce a policy, and the Ghanaians have said, no, we don't want it.
Which are?
The toll levy. When the DVLA wanted to introduce this compulsory medical kit, we just cancelled it. When we came to government and we said there were taxes that were nuisance, we abolished and reduced them. Okay? When Ghanaians were talking about the Ejapa, we pulled the brakes.
Did you?
Has it been implemented?
I'm saying, did you pull the brakes? Let's be fair to the
What did the president say?
So,
no, we are talking about E-levy.
Relax. So if you are talking about Ejapa and you say you pull the brakes,
Johnny, 2022, you are still doing.
I'm coming. I think that you should credit. Finish. I think that you should credit Mr. Martin Amidu, who on his own volition did a corruption risk assessment.
And people are still at post.
Hold on. A corruption risk assessment, which is what gave the president the reason to say we are pulling up.
But is Martin Amidu not Ghanaian?
Yes, but I'm saying, so you say the government pulled the brakes. I'm saying,
yes,
this is a precursor to what.
That's the crux of my argument.
Yeah, but so be fair to the facts. This is a factual platform.
I should have mentioned Martin Amidu's name. Is that what you are saying?
You are claiming what do you call it? Credit for the government.
When Ghanaians raise concern, is Martin Amidu not a Ghanaian, please?
I'm saying that when Ghanaians raise concern...
Let's move on.
When Parliament, the NDC walked out of Parliament because of a Japa deal, you went ahead and passed it. So you cannot say when Ghanaians, because Ghanaians are represented by the 275.
But when we were about to introduce the national health insurance, they walked out.
Okay.
So what are you talking about? The fact that they worked out doesn't mean is good.
I'm saying that...
There have been in fact, when we even discovered oil in this country, they said no, it wasn't oil, it was palm kernel oil. So the fact that the NDC worked out of Parliament in protest of Japan doesn't mean anything.
But you said when the people complained, you backed down. The people complained about the Japa. You went ahead, passed it until Mr. Amidu did a corruption risk assessment, which the president saw was too bad. He is one Ghanaian. The Ghanaians in Parliament, all of us, 106 representatives.
I don't know why you want to talk about Martin Amidu, but he had the opportunity, to write. He had a unique opportunity offered to him by the sitting president. The same president you are talking about. Okay. So he wrote.
Okay.
So, and again, the point I'm trying to establish is that, all concerns will be put on the table. So will be made at the end of the day.
What do we do? Where do we go from here now? Because AGR, the Guta says, pull the brakes, and we know, I mean, on the streets, people say, look, if this is implemented from today, starting today, we will be hot. Where do we go from here?
Johnny, see, the reality is this. Should we continue to borrow money to finance our projects? Today, on the flip side of your Johnny's bite, you made mention of the fact that we need to reduce waste. It's true, we have to, we must, okay? Not just government, even ourselves. Some of us, people are taking double salaries, people are not working by taking salaries and all of that. So we all have a collective responsibility. But the real issue is that the big elephant in the room is that should we continue to borrow money to finance our projects? I think at some point we need to stop as a people so that we can also try to tighten our belt and pay something to ensure that we develop by making sure those money that we use to develop come from us, okay? It might not be pleasant because there's a small side business that I'm doing. The e-levy will affect it because people will make payment through the Momo and the things that I sell will be 100, 200, so definitely it will be affected. But I am very optimistic and hopeful. And the question I want Ghanaians to ask is that what assurance is there that when we pay, it will be used for the intended
The question
purpose?
they're asking is, what are you sacrificing first of all?
No, hold on. I've addressed that issue. So let me address what I've raised myself. And I think this government has demonstrated that when it's giving money, it will be able to develop this country. Because within 4 years, it was able to construct 4 or 5 interchanges. This is a government that has constructed more roads than any government in the history of this country. This is a government that has asphalted more kilometers of road than any government in the history of this.
Concrete roads.
See, the other day it was a discussion. When you go to Tema, the other part of, Google it, where the roads have been constructed with concrete roads. It doesn't mean the entire country. Okay, I admit that. So this is a government when you give money to, will be able to ensure that your kids will be able to go to secondary school for free. That in times of challenges, this government will come to our aid. When it happened in the case of the COVID, when we went through serious challenges like the doom. So what was the NDC able to do? So I am saying that
you have borrowed monies. The NDC's
so you want to go into the borrowing?
Hold on. The NDC's argument is that, for example, they borrowed to get the power barges and all of that and which we are running on at this time. Now the people are saying that you have borrowed too much, you have taxed us too much.
We haven't taxed you too much.
But we can't seem to be seeing what is going on. So, for example, e-levy. We are told that e-levy will be used to create jobs.
Exactly.
Now, there's also the communication service tax, which also has a component of job creation and even to fight cybercrime, right? Will it not be prudent for government to, at this time, before coming to demand for e-levy, to say, this is the analysis we have done. Since we started collecting CST, we increased it from 3 CDs to 6 CDs and 9 CDs, we brought it back to 5. We have been able to create X number of sustainable jobs in agric, in health, in blah, blah, blah. Give us the details. Then that will serve as impetus. Like I said, words don't break the 8, it's deeds. So show your scorecard. You haven't showed the scorecard, but you're asking for more resources. And that's where the people have a problem.
I admit that. But talking about the borrowing, just so you know, about 21 billion of that money went into making sure that Ghanaians who are depositors in the various banks that collapsed did not lose their money, just so you know. Okay? Today we are enjoying relative constant supply of power because of that same amount of money you have borrowed. Okay? So if you want to ask what you have used the money for, I can show you over and over, and I've told you we have done so many things.
I hear you.
Okay, then
let's be fair to Elikem too.
Okay, the issue of the YEA in terms of communication service tax. Yes, I admit, at least there should be some statistics, some figures that support the fact that okay, when YEA takes our taxes into the Youth Employment Agency, this is how many people they have employed, how much they pay them. these are fair, legitimate, and reasonable questions.
So do that to serve as basis for
exactly. But I am saying that is that enough? Has it been enough?
Let's be fair to.
Has it been enough?
Well, show working. Once you show working and you show your scorecard.
To more or less mitigate the unemployment situation in our country. And I'll say no.
Elikem is a teacher. You know that when you give the student an equation.
What do you teach?
When you give a student an equation,
what do you teach?
You must show working before you give the answer. So you have given us the answer, but we are not seeing the working.
You see, interesting.
It was an objective question.
He said it was an objective question.
It is worth noting that borrowing in itself is not a bad idea. It doesn't even matter where you borrow from. You can even go to the IMF, which looks like something that is possible and you are running away from. What you use that borrowing for is what matters. You don't borrow to consume, as is in the case of today. So when we were talking of e-levy and the creation of jobs, and
you borrowed 37 billion.
Allow him. I stopped him for you. Allow him. We have to go. Our time is up.
And you see,
allow him.
21 billion for banking sector cleanup. People are still out there listening and watching us, and they are owed. They have not been paid. And today you are making the assumption that the banking sector cleanup, people have been paid.
People are still owed.
People are still owed. I'm sorry you are not even aware. Definitely, I think you said yourself in your submissions that you say you just came to the country, so probably you are not aware. People are still languishing, crying. Others are even losing their lives.
Who?
You don't understand what people
make
need.
a statement and just
allow him. Unless you want to engage him, because we have to go.
So the interesting thing is that, look, you can borrow, but you must make sure that your borrowing pays for itself. And that, just like you said, we borrowed to buy power barges. What is the power barge doing today? You were even saying that you were giving us freebies, water, electricity, what have you. After December, what did you say? You have introduced levies that we are now paying that, and we don't know when we will stop paying. And you think Ghanaians don't
What did you do when we went to crisis?
Okay.
What did we do when we went to crisis?
Thank you very much. Ambassador Sampi Ali says, I totally disagree. Kofi, this one is for you. Okay. He says, I totally disagree with any communicator trying to dictate what a journalist should say or not say. That is dictating editorial policy of the media, and that is against the Constitution. Well, they are not journalists, so they may not understand. A government that has abandoned the whole sugar factory, has not a single investment in the sugar industry, cannot turn around to say that they are removing the benchmark value on sugar. This may be a good long-term policy, but as usual, badly implemented. Kofi, the young people in Ghana will not eat hope. And Ajafo sent me this screenshot. It says, I admit that Ghanaians are going through difficult times, but it's not my fault. It says the president said it in jabbing when they say, well, John says the government has borrowed over 220 billion. There's almost absolutely nothing to show for it. How can all of a sudden 7 billion per year from e-levy be the savior of our woes all of a sudden? Phew. That's what he says. And the president admits we are suffering, yet he still enjoys luxurious flights. What is the correlation? Good morning, Johnny. And the question I ask is this. We lost over 12 billion. In the Auditor's General's report in 2019 or so, in 2020, 7 billion from e-levy. If we plug the holes and stop the wastage, we can make more. So I think that we can generate money from here, and we can be Ghana beyond borrowing. Thank you very much, my good friend Kofi Ameya, for coming, and also to Elikem Kotokos.
I wish you would just allow me to say good morning to Honorable Nelson Abudu and Elvis Doe.
Okay. And happy birthday belated happy birthday to Dr. Thomas Niama Okwabi. We call it Dr. Okwabi Daddy. It was your 80th birthday yesterday. Happy birthday to you, belated one. Live long and stay strong, and we celebrate you with all the power in us. And happy birthday to you. We'll see you after the break. The sports and some more conversations here on New Day.
Water gives life. Water is life. Enjoy the pure, refreshing taste of Awake purified drinking water, which comes in a uniquely designed bottle with a lemon green tap. Water is your perfect way to stay hydrated. And remember, for every bottle you buy, an amount will be donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center, Ghana. Awake purified drinking water, one for life.
For bulk pet